It is true that when we open a book, we enter a different universe. We breathe imaginary air, travel on imaginary roads, and make imaginary friends, even as adults. But book readers don't always occupy an imaginary world. When we put the book down, we also come back to the real world. I was excited about World Book and Copyright Day on the 23rd of April, but the terror attack in Pahalgam on the 22nd has erased all joy for Indians everywhere. Since the 22nd, all of us are haunted by the horror that we've seen unfolding on our TV screens. May the perpetrators and sponsors of this horrific attack be brought to justice soon. Let's pray for the families left behind. May the souls of the innocent victims attain Sadgati. How do you select your next read? Most likely through recommendations from friends and other bookworms. You might scroll through bestseller lists and probably spend hours browsing books and reading blurbs at physical bookstores as well as online ones. I always believed that the authors themselves wrote the blurbs or the catchy synopsis at the back of the book or on the inside flaps of the cover. Turns out that many authors do, but majority of blurbs are written by professionals known as cover copywriters. Louise Wilder has been a copywriter at Penguin Books for 25 years. During this time, she has produced about 5,000 blurbs. In Blurb Your Enthusiasm, she gives us a behind the scenes look at how blurbs encapsulate a story's essence, the challenges in crafting them, and how they influence the choices of readers like you and me. It's not a how to guide, mind you. She does explore the science behind copywriting, but it's a thoroughly entertaining book, which is full of anecdotes and stories, wicked examples of great and not so great blurbs, and analysis of what makes them work or not work. April 23rd was World Book and Copyright Day. What could be a better way to celebrate it than a book that gives you an informative and hilarious peek into how copywriters convince you to buy a particular book? If you love books and reading, this is a book you cannot miss reading. Let's switch on the reading lamp. Hello, I'm Asavri, and on this channel, I review books and talk about reading in general. Let's look at the details of today's book.
Facts and Figures.
Blurb Your Enthusiasm was written by Louise Wilder. It's a non-fiction book that was published in 2022 by One World Publications. 329 pages long, available in Kindle, hardcover, and paperback. The link to buy the book is in the first pinned comment and in the description below. Now for the contents of the book. But no spoilers, no worry. Just
The cover story.
the full title of the book is Blurb Your Enthusiasm, an A to Z of literary persuasion. The book is divided into 5 sections like cover stories and the history of blurbs, starting with Daniel Defoe's Treasure Island, the first ever English novel published in 1719, and the rules of writing blurbs and so on. Every section has chapters that focus on different aspects of that topic. The chapters are organized alphabetically, hence the A to Z in the title of the book. To give you an example, in the cover stories section, Louise Wilder talks about how titles are chosen, the tagline, the subtitles, the cover design, and so on. Every chapter is full of interesting information, analysis, and anecdotes that entertain. Have you ever heard of novels titled Under the Red, White, and Blue? Or the very corny The High Bouncing Lover? These were titles that F. Scott Fitzgerald had shortlisted before finalizing the title The Great Gatsby. Jane Austen originally titled Pride and Prejudice as First Impressions. In the rules of writing, Louis Wilder talks about punctuation, spoilers, the use of foul language, and how a successful blurb should show and not tell. Don't tell the readers that it's a hilarious book. Show them in a few words how it is hilarious. The chapters are short and to the point. Let me be equally short with my cover story of the book. As the description of the book says, it's a compendium or collection of book blurbs, writing tips, literary folklore, and publishing secrets. Here's why no bookworm should miss reading Blurb Your Enthusiasm.
Speaking my mind.
Louis Wilder asks and answers questions like, should all adjectives be murdered? But I'm going to use 4 adjectives that tell you 4 qualities of this book that make it a must read for someone who loves books. First one, it's informative. The book is packed with interesting anecdotes, examples, and facts, but it's not a dry collection of information. Everything illustrates a learning point or entertains you. For example, I found out for the first time in this book about a famous 6-word story written by Ernest Hemingway. You heard it right, 6-word story. It goes like this: for sale, baby shoes, never worn. It's a tragic story, but it illustrates the power of words, especially in the hands of a skilled writer. I was floored. I also found out that from this kind of micro writing came the form known as dribble, which is a piece of writing that is exactly 50 words long, and drabble, which is exactly 100 words long. I found out that T.S. Eliot, the poet, also wrote hundreds of blurbs when he worked as a publisher at Faber and Faber. This is one of those books that you can open at any page, learn something new, and keep going back to again and again. 2. It's instructional. I mentioned earlier that there is a separate section dedicated to rules of writing. I know there are thousands of books that teach you punctuation and grammar and story structure and dialogue and so on. But what is unique about this book is that it focuses attention on writing effectively in minimum words. That's a very useful skill to have, no matter what your profession is. The things you learn in this book will help you in your communications, whether you are writing to a potential client or a potential love interest. 3. It's nostalgic. What I mean is that it talks about a lot of books and authors that are dear to all of us. The book is full of stories about Jane Austen, Judith Krantz, Marie Kondo, Shakespeare, Richard Feynman, and there are whole chapters dedicated to authors like Charles Dickens and Enid Blyton. It makes you feel as happy as if you were meeting old friends. In the chapter about first lines, she talks about the importance of opening lines in a book and her favorite ones. Everything she talks about strikes a chord inside you. For me, it's these two that always come to mind when I think about opening lines. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. From A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. And it is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. The evergreen opening lines of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Please write in the comments about your favorite opening lines. I would love to know. It's wonderful to find out what other readers love to read. And now the 4th quality. The book is hilarious. I giggled and snorted and laughed my way through this book. From innocent observations to tongue-in-cheek digs to downright raunchy comments. Louis Wilder's writing covers all kinds of humor. This is one of the best examples of a book that entertains and educates at the same time. And remember to read all of her footnotes. They are as entertaining as the chapters. The quote I would like to read out, however, is one that shows her sensitive side and will make you feel nostalgic.
Quote unquote.
That's what childhood reading is, a journey. where the writers and characters we love hold our hand along the path called growing up. Words matter, but perhaps when we are young, they matter more intensely, more crucially than at any other time in our lives. They help us decide who we are and who we want to be, and the words that appear on books as well as inside them help us on the way. Now, the Linescape rating of today's book.
LINEDSCAPE Rating.
Up there is a link to the video that explains my Linescape book rating system. All the parameters of today's book are rated 8 or 9. The overall score is 87 over 100, which makes it a 4.5 star book. Now it's time to put my thoughts.
In a nutshell.
Blurb Your Enthusiasm by Louise Winder is a non-fiction book that talks about the art and craft of blurb writing. That may sound like a manual for writers, but it is definitely not so. We may say that we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but the truth is, we do judge a book by its cover. As a reader, it's fun to read about what goes into the making of that part of the cover which influences us the most, the blurb. I would certainly recommend reading this 4.5 star book. If you like the episode, please give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell icon. Share with your friends and family. The more, the merrier. Please visit the Reading Lamp every Friday for a fresh review. This is Asavri signing off for now. Have fun under the Reading Lamp. Switch on, read on.